Hey everyone, welcome back to Papa's Workshop. A short time ago, I designed this paint can storage rack to be able to put into my shop. I designed it in easel, carved it out on the VCarve CNC machine, and I made the plans available free on the Inventables project page. But oddly enough, I had some complaints that it wasn't done in the VCarve Pro, and those plans were not available using that software. So today, we're going to solve that problem. I'm going to show you just how easy it is to design this same paint storage rack in the VCarve Pro, and I'm going to make this plan available on the Patreon page. It's only going to be $3, and you can purchase this plan and be able to cut this out for yourself. To get started with this project, I'm opening up a brand new file, and this is going to be single-sided. We're going to do this in millimeters rather than in inches. So I'm going to switch this over to millimeters, and this I want to be 762 by 762 millimeters to begin with. I want this at a half an inch, and a half an inch is going to be 12.7 millimeters. The material surface is what I want to use for the Z0 position, and I want to set this up with the center position, and then everything else will be okay, and I'll click OK, and we'll get out of that window. So this is the work area that I have to be able to work with, and I want to start off with the paint can itself. Real simple, but the paint can is going to be used as a guide to be able to how I'm going to set this up and make sure that it's going to fit. So we're going to come over here to the Draw Rectangle tool, and I'm going to select it. And as far as the size, I want this to be 65 millimeters by 200 millimeters, and we're going to create that. So that's actually my paint can right there. So we'll close that window out, and we'll take my paint can, and we'll slide it out of the way right now. We'll just set it over to the side. The next thing is there's really two components to this cabinet. You have the two sides, and then you have the 6 shelves. Of course, all 6 shelves are the same, and the 2 sides are the same. So really, all you have to do is create those 2 components. We're going to start off with the side, and I'm going to go back to the Draw Rectangle. Now this time, what I want to be able to do for this side is I want this to be 127 millimeters by 635 millimeters. And I'll create that. And I'm going to leave it in the center for right now. But I want to close this window out, because that's basically the shape that I want to have. These slots I'm going to put in here, I'm going to set those up right now. And we're going to come back to the Draw Rectangle tool, and I want to set up the x-axis. We'll leave that at 127, but as far as the height, based on my previous test, I know that 12.27 worked real well to give me the distance that I need. So I'm going to use that figure. And if you want to check out that video on how I arrived at the 12.27, I'll have a link to that video in the description below. So this is the slot that we're going to use to be able to create this. Now the other thing that I want to do is put this on a 30-degree angle. So we can come over here to this tool right here. It says Rotate Selected Object. And I want to be able to rotate this at a 30-degree angle. And we'll hit apply, and that's it. Now we know that's exactly a 30-degree angle. The other thing I want to do is with the paint can itself. So let's highlight the paint can, and because this is on the vertical, we need to change that a little bit as far as the degrees, as far as how it rotates. So I actually need to set this up at 300 degrees. And we'll apply that to it, and we'll close it. And now you can see that that is exactly the same as my slot. So I'll set that right here for the moment, and I want to come back to the slots. We need 6 of them to fit into this area. With this slot highlighted, I want to come over to the Array tool. And on this, I want to have on the y-axis 6 of these slots. So these slots will go right into this area. I only want one column. I only need just that one slot. And as far as the gap between those, 35 millimeter has worked real well, and we'll double check that. So I'm just going to hit copy, and there's all 6 of them. Now, at this point, we're going to close this, and let's take the paint can, and we're going to slide that over and see how that fits in there. You can see it has a little bit of room, and that's good. So that little bit of gap will be just fine. If you want to have a smaller gap, of course you could do that. That's why I have the paint can, so that you can adjust it. So let's get this out of the way, and let's put my slots now into this side panel. So with these all highlighted now, I'm going to just slide them over, and I want that to snap right there at the center point. So now you can see a close-up of the slots right at that center point. However, if you don't like that exact location, you can still change it. By highlighting all of these different slots, you can then hold down the Shift key, and then using the arrow keys on the keyboard, you can move them to the left as I'm doing here. And I think I want it to line up right along the center line on that bottom edge of the slot. And I think that will be perfect. So that's another way to be able to do it. I also want to save one of these slots to be able to use for the shelf itself. So I just hit Control C, Control V, and I have my slot saved. But I also want to put in one more piece. Right here, I need to have a piece of wood that will go across from one side of this panel to the other side, so I have something to screw it to the wall and to be able to hold it steady. To do that, we're going to come back over here to the tool menu, the Draw Rectangle tool. And this time, I want the width to be the 12.27. And we're going to make this about, let's say 35 millimeters. And let's create that. So let's close that out now. And we'll take this piece and just put it right up here in this corner, right there. And I want to duplicate this and do the same thing at the bottom. Control C and Control V. And I know there's a number of ways to do this. This is just how I'm doing it right now. And that slides in place. At this point, let's grab the trim tool and let's clean up everything. I can zoom in. We can trim this out. We can come into here, trim this, and do this for all of these pieces. I'm going to continue this off camera until all of this is finished and it looks like the side panel that I'm wanting to have. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back at this. We're going to double check. And this is all joined together. And that's going to work out real well. We'll have this little board right here that we can cut to join these two panels. Now at this point, we can also do some other things to it. Let's zoom back in. One of the things that I'd like to be able to do is put some dog bones in here to be able to have it where when this slot slides in, it'll go all the way in. To do that, we're going to come over here to the fillet menu, and I can do the T-bone. Now at this point, I can click right there, and you see how that drops in. That's what I want. We're going to do the same thing on this one. Now that put it where it sticks out. I don't want it sticking out. Just hit Control Z, and we can do that. There we go. And we'll scroll down and do the same thing with the rest of these. And we're going to do the same thing here. This one really doesn't matter because it's going to show no matter what we do, but I'll still put it in there. And we'll do the same thing up top. Now this one, put it in there. I don't want it to go that direction. I want to be consistent. So there we go. Now the other thing to do, let's close this out for a moment. Now if you want to change and do some other things with this, you can. For an example, we can come back over here to our fillet menu, and let's just say we want to have this at, let's say 12 millimeters, and let's do a normal fillet. And let's just say we can come up here and round this off. Just like that, we can round off the bottom. Now this is something you really can't do easily in the easel software, but I like to have that round edge there. So this panel is actually finished. So we'll close this, move our paint can, get it out of the way, highlight all of this, and we will slide it over. Get it out of the way. And we can even group this together by coming right over here, grouping it together. And now, when you click on it, we have one piece. It's all ready to be able to carve, and there's no open vectors. Next thing we need to do is create our shelf. Back to our draw rectangle, and this time we're going to draw the shelf at 120 millimeters. And as far as the height, we're going to do this at 610 millimeters. And we'll create it. So there's our shelf. We'll close that now. At this point, we need to put one slot here and one slot here. That way they'll be able to drop in to this section and lock together. So I want to take this and I want to come back over to the rotate selected objects and minus 30. There we go. All right, so we have this back where we want it. So it's going to be right along in this area. What I want to do now is close out this window. Let's go down to our copy. This time we only need 2. And 1 column. Now as far as the gap in between, I want to be able to have the gap situated at about 535 millimeters. And then I can hit copy, and that gives me the 2 that I need. And at this point, I can, close out of this. We no longer need it. We're going to highlight both of these. And I want to slide these over to, again, where it clicks on the center line. And I want it to be halfway in between. So that puts it right there on that center point. That gives me right here. And again, if I want to move this just slightly over, I can do that by holding the Control key down and using the arrow keys. And I can use this right arrow key to move it over to the precise location that I want it. And that looks good. All right, let's take the scissors tool and let's clip this away. We'll clip this right there. And we'll clip this one right there. That looks good. Now let's zoom in here real close and we'll clip out this little middle piece. We'll do the same thing up top. We'll come in there and clip that out. So that's all there is to doing a shelf. Now one of the things you can do, just like we did before, let's round over the edges. We'll come back to the fillet tool. We'll do the normal fillet. We'll keep it at the 12 millimeter and we'll do the same thing. We'll round over these edges just so we don't have a sharp edge. Now going down here at the back side, not a big deal because this is actually going to be against the wall. Now I clicked this just to make sure that there was no open vectors, so that looks good. And if you want to just double check and make sure and just group it together, you can do that also. And that double checks everything. Now at this point, the paint can is really not needed, but for the sake of doing this for the video, I'm going to leave that paint can right here for you. Now at the top and the bottom, we have this little slot that was created. Now this is for the nailer that goes from the left side to the right side. In the original video, I just cut this out on the table saw. But here, I want to be able to add those 2 boards into the design so that you can cut them out on this CNC machine. I'll click on the measure tool right here, and I want to select this point, and I want to come all the way down and measure to this point right there. And you can see that that is 559.54. All right, so we'll close that out, and we'll come over and make a rectangle. And that is going to be 559.54. And as far as the height of this was 35 millimeters. And we'll hit create. We'll close this out. I'm moving these pieces around for you so that you can have as many as possible. And I think in most CNC machines, you're going to need to set this up and do 2 carvings. In the event that you have a larger CNC machine, then I'm going to set this up so that you can carve this with all of the different pieces in here. So now you have all 6 shelves. So let's go back now, close this out. I'm going to go back over to the original job setup, and now it all fits in there. So if you have a CNC machine that is about ability to cut 762 by 1100, then you can do this all on one cut. This is the size of the material that you would need to be able to cut out everything at once, and I know most of you will not have a CNC machine that large. So these pieces can be pulled out separately and put on any size piece of wood that you have to be able to cut out the individual pieces. But for the sake of argument, I'm going to highlight everything here, and we're going to create the tool paths to be able to do that. And I need to come to this icon right here. We have all of the tool paths selected. I want to come over to this. Now, if you want to cut this down on the bottom left-hand corner, you can do that as well. We can come over here to set, and we can, let's see here, change this to the bottom left-hand corner, and you can see how that red dot pops up there. So now that's going to carve starting from the bottom left-hand corner. We are going to be cutting all the way through at 12.7 millimeters. So all of that looks good. We'll hit OK. Now, I'm going to use the profile toolpath. We're going to start at the 0 cut depth. We're going to cut all the way through 12.7 millimeters. And as far as the tool that we're going to be using, I'm going to select a bit, and I had used the 1/8 inch end mill before, so we'll use the 1/8 inch end mill, and I will select that. Do we need 17 passes? No, we don't. All we really need is about 3 passes. And that will take care of that part. I do want to cut this on the outside, and I do want to have it where it does the climbing. We're not doing an offset. We can add the ramps in. 20 degree will be fine. So when I click calculate, now you can see exactly what it's going to be carving. You can see that's cutting all the way through. That's what we want. That actually looks real good. So for me, this is where as far as I would go. I typically use the glue and the tape method to be able to hold my projects down. But I know that there's some of you out there that love to do tabs. So what I'm going to do now is go back in and add tabs into this. So in this section, I've clicked on Add Tabs, and I want to come up and actually define the length. Now it had 0.5 of a millimeter, and obviously that's going to be too small. But I need this about 1/2 inch, or about 12 millimeters. As far as the height or the thickness of the tab, I'm going to put it at 2 millimeters. Now this may or may not work for you. You may want to have this a little bit thicker. To add the tabs, all we need to do is click Edit Tabs, and you can see how the little cursor has changed. And when you get that check mark, you can click with the left mouse and add the tab. You can also click on the tab itself, drag it around, and move it anywhere that you wish. So rather than bore you, I'll take just a couple of minutes off camera and put the remaining tabs in place. At this point, I've recalculated it, and now we can look at the toolpath and take a look at it. I want to zoom in also, and I can show you the tabs. Now you can clearly see where the tabs are located. And again, if you wish to move these before you carve your own, you certainly can do that. I would encourage each and every one of you that plan to carve this to please check all of the different settings and make sure that they're going to work for your machine. Once you're completely happy with all the different settings, then it's time to save the toolpath. Now, as far as the post processor, you need to select the correct post processor for your particular machine. And typically what I use is the Gerbil in inches for the G code. But again, you need to select the one that works best for you and your machine. Thanks a lot for watching this video today. I hope that you was able to learn a few things about how easy it is to build design in VCarve Pro. And also, I hope you take the opportunity to look at the video where I designed the same exact project in the easel software. And I'll have the link to that video right down below in the description. Now, if you like this video, by all means, give me a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell notification. That way you'll be notified on the different videos. And don't forget, I'm going to offer the plans to this storage rack on the Patreon site. There you'll be able to purchase a plan for just $3, and then you can be able to carve it exactly as it is, or you can modify it to fit your needs. So again, thanks a lot for watching this video today. I look forward to seeing you real soon in the next project, whatever that happens to be. So bye-bye.